Hi everyone, welcome back to Audico's Hub. If you like our training videos and tutorials in the field of biotechnology and food technology, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Also, hit the bell icon to never miss any updates.
So our speaker for the day is Ms. Shreya Roy. She has completed her BTech Medical Biotechnology and her projects are in the field of cancer biology. Now her first project is titled Identifying BRCA1 Recurrent Founder Mutations in Hereditary Breast and Ovarian Cancer in Women. And the second is Study of Tubulin Binding Agents using Theoretical and Computational Techniques.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Shreya Roy, and I'm a recent graduate of medical biotechnology from DY Patil, Pune. And I was approached to be a speaker on this panel by Krishna a few days ago. And the first thing that came into my mind was, there needs to be a certain amount of guidance which should be imparted to students. And I feel only the ones who have experienced and have gone through it very recently can impart it the best, because we are still in that age where things have happened to us, as well as the first-hand experience can serve as a motivation to the other students. So this is going to be a very general topic. So first of all, my background. So I come from a family from West Bengal. I have not grown up there. I've grown up in Mumbai. And if people ask me why science in the first place, why biotechnology in the first place, so my answer would be that growing up, I always had science, the presence of science around me. My maternal grandfather, he is a forensic scientist, and my mother, she is a zoology student as well as a science teacher. So I feel the presence of science has always been there in my life. It was never exerted or pushed upon me, but it was always there. So I just felt the presence to be very calming, and I felt, okay, I can choose this as a career ahead. I can do something. So that is exactly what happened. My research interest is in cancer biology, and I think it was not a decision which I made in a single day. After that, I pursued BTech in medical biotechnology, and my undergraduate experience was the building block for whatever I have achieved right now. It's very less. I should mention that it's very less for now, but I hope to do a lot. So in the first year, we had subjects such as molecular biology as well as cell biology. But while I was studying the Hallmarks of Cancer, the very revolutionary Hallmarks of Cancer paper, which was written by Robert Weinberg and his team, that is when I was completely intrigued by cancer. So I just the feeling, the possibility that you're just sitting randomly and just one cell of your body decides, okay, today I will start replicating like really, really violently, and nobody would be able to stop me, and it just forms a tumor, and then you later diagnose it. So the possibility of that happening, the very thought of that happening, I think that is what changed my entire perspective towards science. And I deeply internally felt that a single disease should not have the right to wipe out people in such pain, because I had seen people in pain, I had seen people suffer from cancer. So that led to a very deeper impact in my conscious. Moving on to internships and trainings, I went up to one of the labs here based in Pune. It's called Rapture Biotech, and I thought, why not learn some microbiology as well as molecular biology techniques. So that is where I learned a few of the techniques like PCR, then gel electrophoresis and all that. And after my second year, I thought, why not kickstart my career right now rather than waiting for the degree to finish. So that is when, for 2 consecutive years, I went to Tata Memorial Hospital's ACTREC, which is based in Kargil. And for my final year project, I was very fortunate enough to complete it at IIT Bombay. Let me just talk to you about the rationale that I follow for my own research perspective. So there's a term which is very widely used in biotechnology. If you come from the research background, if you're more inclined towards academia, so that's called bench to bedside. So basically, how do you take a scientific thought from bench and convert it into a product which can go to the bedside of the patient and help him probably bridge the gap between the welfare of the patient and his illness. So first of all, there is basic research. So basic research is works on a single idea. You're looking at an idea, you're trying to figure out, does it have an underlying principle? And if there is an underlying principle, is there an evidence to it? So I think basic research was what I did at ACTREC, because it's more of establishing the scientific evidence and using diagnostic research to do it. So I was very fortunate to do basic research on that term. And moving forward, I did some translational research, which is basically, establishing how are you going to use the scientific evidence to make it more fruitful for, patients and mankind in usual. So translational research was, this is what I pursued in IIT Bombay. And I was basically working on how I can use a few very basic molecules, and I can use it for, to stop cancer from growing, more in the therapeutic area. So that was the translational research. And moving on, right now I'm trying to study clinical research. So I'm currently a postgraduate diploma student at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and I'm doing the diploma in clinical research. And I think this was the rationale behind my entire the career that I have till now, that I wanted to learn how to do basic research. I wanted to learn how to do translational research, as well as what aspects does clinical research encompass. So these were the things which I wanted to cover in my rationale. Now, to talk about my projects, it's going to be a very brief one. So let me just brief you how the workflow was at ACTREC and how the collaboration worked between the Cancer Genetics Clinic and laboratory. So Tata Memorial Hospital is based in Lower Parel in Mumbai, and ACTREC is based in Kargil. So there's a collaboration between these two places. And what Cancer Genetics Clinic is, I would just like to say that it is an ICMR initiative where people can get their genetic testing for free of cost. So it's a government initiative. It's also funded by Tata. So first of all, if a patient comes to a doctor and the doctor finds out that the patient has a first degree or a second degree relative who also has cancer, so that is when they refer the patient to the Cancer Genetics Clinic. And after the patient arrives to us, there is a pre-test genetic counseling wherein the doctor or the genetic counselor who is present would take the entire personal history of the patient, and it's usually taken up to 3 generations. So you take an entire genetic counseling, and then after that, the laboratory will receive patient blood samples, and the blood samples are then sent to the laboratory here in ACTREC. And what we did there in the laboratory was we conducted several tests parallelly, about which I would be talking in the next slide. And after that, a report was generated, and then there's a post-test counseling where the patient is called back, and the doctor would actually explain to them what they have found from the tests which were conducted in the laboratory, and how they can use this data to prevent cancer in the other members of the family. So it's sort of a preventive gesture which is given by Tata Memorial Hospital as well as the government, and I think that's a brilliant initiative on their part. So let's just go to the techniques which I did at ACTREC, and the laboratory was that of genome biology. So the first technique was we used to receive the blood and we used to extract the DNA using the column method. So we used to have different kits from Qiagen and Invitrogen. So we used to extract DNA. The traditional method of lysing, then precipitating the DNA is a little cumbersome when you receive 80 to 100 samples per day. So that's why we're using the column method. It's mostly called the Chilex method, where there is an ion exchange and the DNA usually sticks to the column, and then you can wash it out with a buffer and you have the DNA at your hand. After that, to ensure that the DNA is actually there in the elution that we get, we do agarose gel electrophoresis, and I'm sure you must be aware of the principle that the negatively charged DNA then travels along the agarose gel, and you can there's a ladder to compare, and then you can actually visualize what is going on. After that, after we have confirmed that the elution actually contains DNA, what we used to do was, I was working on BRCA1, so that's breast cancer 1 gene. So BRCA1 has 24 exons, and essentially, we cannot amplify every exon to see if there is a mutation in each one of them or if there is an SNP in each one of them. So what we used to do is we used to run a PCR, which is polymerase chain reaction, to amplify very selective exons. Now, these selective exons have already been tested by various scientists, and they have found that there are several hotspots on the BRCA1 gene wherein you can, if you test those hotspots, you'll be sure to know, okay, there is a genetic predisposition to cancer. So using PCR, we used to amplify very selective exons like 2, 8, 12 exons of BRCA1 is a good hotspot for detecting triple negative breast cancer and ovarian cancers. So after that, after we have we have the selective exons, we used to check for mutations and SNPs. Now, there is a subtle amount of difference between mutations and SNPs, and it is essentially in the frequency that they're found in the population. So mutations are very less frequent, whereas SNPs are more frequent in the population. Let me just give an example that for primary amenorrhea, so basically the onset of menstrual cycle in women is different for every woman in this world. It's not that you turn 12 when you get your menstrual cycle. So it's different from every female because there is a single nucleotide polymorphism. There are different forms of the same gene, and it's very prevalent in the population. Whereas mutations are more, I feel they're more deleterious and they're more harmful, and they're less likely in the population. So we're checking for mutations and SNPs. It depends on what the patient has. If the patient has, endometrial cancer or breast cancer or ovarian cancer. So depending on that, we have 3 methods through which we used to check for mutations. So there's Sanger sequencing, obviously. There is a conformation-sensitive gel electrophoresis, and there's a multi-gene NGS panel. So Sanger sequencing was very straightforward. You just give forward and reverse primers for these PCR exons, and you find out if there is a mutation. You get a polygraph, and you can actually check if there is a mutation. There would be a clear giveaway because the ACTG graphs would differ. Now, coming to conformation sensitive gel electrophoresis, this is a very good method. This is a very good method to actually test point mutations in the exons, because the amount of bisacrylamide in this gel is very high. So the process is actually a little slower than Sanger sequencing or NGS, but it's very reliable because even a single change in the folding of the DNA can yield different results. So it was a very sure shot confirmatory method for checking this mutation or SNP, especially in a laboratory setting, which is based on a hospital. It was cheap, it was easy to do, and it could be done in a day or two. So that was CSG. Now we'll go to multi-gene NGS panel. So there were multiple panels where you could check for multiple genes. So not only BRCA1, BRCA2 could be tested along with it. And some people who have a predisposition for, say, some men who have, breast cancer, they could be checked for prostate cancer as well. So multi-gene NGS panel was a huge thing. I wasn't allowed to do it a lot because it required a lot of accuracy and precision, and I was too young to do it. But someday I might return and do it. So that was all the techniques that I learned at Trek. And so basically what happened was I was working on around 1,000 families. I had tested around 1,000 families, and I was trying to see what is the what are the recurrent mutations. So recurrent mutations are if in a given population you find that a mutation is recurring a number of times more than the usual, that is what you would call a recurrent mutation. And it is also found in the subsequent generations. So there is no genetic variation in it. You would find it in subsequent generations. So what I wanted to note was, so out of the 1,000 families, most of them were from the Northeast. So I noted, I'm also from the Northeast side, so I'm from West Bengal. So I had noted there were a lot of women who had breast cancer, who had ovarian cancer, who had endometrial cancer. And they were all from West Bengal or the Northeast states of India, as well as UP and Bihar. So the reason they were sort of having this type of cancer was there might have been a founder effect in one of these states wherein a starting original population had the predisposition to cancer, and they passed it on to their generations, and these generations may have migrated to other places, and that is how there is a sort of founder effect which was found. I wanted to test this hypothesis where if the founder effect is actually valid in this case. So my rationale was to study the distribution of recurrent BRCA1 mutation carrier families from East and Northeast India. And we also had samples from Bangladesh and Nepal, which is very fortunate. You usually won't find it from people who are not from this country, but we did, and it was very lucky for us. So what we found was there was an analysis for 800 families, and we found 9 founder mutations, which means that out of these families, these 9 mutations were very common in them. There could have been millions of mutations which could have sprung out, but these 9 mutations were very, very, very crucial to them, very, very trivial, very, very important for them. Now the reason this was important is whenever a family comes from Northeast India or north of India or Bangladesh or Nepal, what the scientists or what the doctors can do is they can order tests for only those 9 founder mutations, so that the diagnosis as well as the testing is fast forwarded. Of course, if you don't find results in these 9 founder mutations, you can then go about and do tests for other mutations. But this sort of narrows down, your time, your cost effectiveness. So I think this was a very good research perspective. And I thought that probably you need some more confirmation, and it's still going on. The project is still going on in ACTREC, so I cannot reveal a lot of data about about these mutations and these families. So the outcome is that we are still screening these samples using haplotyping, and haplotyping is where you confirm that all these mutations come from the similar families or not. So I hope that the confirmation is positive and we get some sort of a regimen to sort of simplify genetic screening. And I was very glad with all the findings which I had achieved from this project. And I was fortunate enough to present this entire research ethic at IBRCA Singapore. So this was the poster title, wherein I was testing for recurrent BRCA1 mutations in HBOC families from east and northeast of India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. So that sums up my entire experience at ACTREC, and I would now like to talk very briefly about IIT Bombay, because I can't talk a lot about this because the research is still going on these grounds over there in IIT Bombay. I'm still linked to them right now about what is going on, but I can't reveal a lot of it, but I can just talk about an overview of what I did. So it was a 6-month project. It was my final year project, and I did it at the Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering, and the laboratory was of molecular biology because I intended to do something of this sort. Now, before getting into IIT Bombay, what I intended to do was learn more about cancer therapeutics. I had seen a side of cancer diagnostics and prevention. Now, cancer therapeutics was very intriguing. It seemed very intriguing to me because I had actually seen patients in Tata Memorial Hospital, and it was a very difficult process to process because you're literally looking at adults as well as kids as young as 3 to 4 years of age, and they had retinoblastoma, they had leukemia, and I think that was just a very I was devastated when I looked at them. So I thought, why not look at the therapeutic side of cancer? And that is when I realized that cancer chemotherapy, the chemotherapy kills the person faster than the cancer itself. So why not look at the alternatives of cancer therapeutics, which would be, targeted drug therapy or immunotherapy. So I'm still very intrigued for immunotherapy, but the project I did was for targeted drug therapy. Now, initially, when I joined IIT Bombay last year in December, I had different plans. I was thinking about targeting a very specific mutation for cancer, and I wanted to work on that. But then COVID happened, and I had to abandon all the wet lab work, which I had planned for IIT Bombay. And I went back to my supervisor. I told him, okay, I need to do something substantial. I want to do something good. And he said, okay, can you work with bioinformatics tools? So I thought, why not? Why not give it a try? Why not get into translational research, a different paradigm of translational sciences? So first of all, I would like to introduce this project saying that there is a very famous paper, which I had mentioned in the starting of the talk, that Hallmarks of Cancer by Robert Weinberg. So the first hallmark of cancer, and a very important aspect of cancer in general, is uncontrolled cell division. And I think everyone on this planet would characterize cancer with these terms, which is uncontrolled cell division. Now, just imagine cell division for a moment. So there is prophase, there is metaphase, there is anaphase, and there is telophase. Now, when anaphase is happening, or just go even further, go to metaphase. So when metaphase is happening, your chromosomes are aligning at the equator of the cell, and the spindle fibers are forming. Now, these spindle fibers are actually made from microtubules. So if the microtubules are not dynamic enough to, form spindle fibers and sort of pull the sister chromatids apart and form two different cells, if the microtubules are not good enough, if they are destabilized in any way, I don't think I mean, it has been said that the cell division would not occur at all. So microtubule seems like a very good organelle to target for cancer therapy. And that is when we came up with targeting microtubules for cancer treatment. This was the main reason where we can destabilize or stabilize microtubules and successfully inhibit cell division. So I couldn't do much in my thesis. I had to use computational as well as theoretical approaches. So as far as the computational part is required, I used different bioinformatics tools such as Autodoc and Chimera. I wanted to see how microtubules bind with different antimicrotubule binding agents, and I wanted to see what is the binding capacity. It's very limited when it's at your home in your laptop with a very with a very small version of the software, which is actually at a very large scale in the lab itself. But still, I could see that there were a few hydrogen bonds, there were a few weak bonds which were formed, and I thought, okay, fine, we can leave it to the others for more interpretation. This is where I can stop, where I can just see, I can observe the molecular dynamics simulation and the molecular docking, which entails this subject. As far as the theoretical aspect was concerned, I was actually looking at the existing antimicrotubule drugs. So the main reason they were not coming out to the public, or they were not getting translated or confirmed for clinical research, is either due to toxicity or due to weaker binding. So I felt that there is a need for optimizing these molecules with the help of side chains, or decreasing some binding mode needs to be changed for these particular molecules. So I did an entire theoretical study. I had 45 molecules and I narrowed it down to 15. And right now those 15 molecules are being looked upon at IIT Bombay. And same goes for the computational part. And so that was my outcome. And this is the title of my project. So it was study of the tubulin binding agents. So that sums up my experience at IIT Bombay. There's not a lot that I can speak about this because the project is still going on. Then they wish to publish, and if something fruitful comes out, they wish to patent it as well. So this is everything that I have on IIT Bombay. My final thoughts for you are, please keep your basics very, very, very clear. Just trust your basics, because in the longer run, the complicated concepts will not be the main thing they will not be the main thing. The simpler concepts, the very basic principles which underlie any given phenomena would be the main thing you would be asked in any interview, or even if you are critically thinking about a research idea, it would be the main thing that you would need. It's critical thinking and your basics. So that sums up my final thoughts. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much. I hope I have not bored you a lot. Thank you.